Hey everybody, this is Jim Grzanzio from the Oracle Groundbreakers team. We're back here in Honolulu, Hawaii for UnVoxxed Hawaii 2020. And I'm here with Nora Howard. Nora, welcome.
Hi. Well, thank you.
So, wanted to, I'm having conversations with developers here. We're at this conference. There's got about 60 or 70 people inside here. This is the beginning of day 2. The last day of the conference. We're here in the morning, and actually you ran a session yesterday, right?
Yeah.
What did you guys talk about?
I talked about large tech migrations. So like my current big project at work is migrating from JDK 8 to JDK 11, and there are a lot of like technical issues, but also organizational and political issues with making a big migration where, you may have like lots of services that, as a JVM team, like we don't really control any of that, and like we can't force people to move necessarily. So it's kind of like, how do you manage a project like that? How do different companies approach those kinds of things? And those are kind of the things that I wanted to know more about, and I think we had a good discussion.
So yeah, actually there's a lot of people there in your session. Okay, so so where do you work?
So I work at Twitter.
Okay, so Twitter's a pretty big company these days. What are migration issues look like inside of a company that size? Because you mentioned political issues as well as technical issues. What's the distinction?
Oh, well, by political, I mean like, everyone has their own priorities. And so going like, hey, we have this big migration and, like it's possible your service might break, so you need to test it, means that, we're basically forcing work on other people. And so we need to make sure that work has been scheduled by them, and they're prepared for it, and to make it try to make it as simple as possible for them to do their testing without running into issues and having to do too much of the work themselves. And one of the focuses that I have is on this particular thing is to try to make it so that I can take on, or my team can take on, most of the work of the migration, in terms of making sure that the source code is ready and the tests pass. And then for things where I can understand why something failed, I can make a patch request to that team. And for things where I don't understand it or I need more context, then I can interact with them. But I want us to drive it. But I know that there are even larger organizations where that kind of a process isn't feasible. So it's kind of interesting to hear from other people who work in those bigger organizations how they manage these things. Because at that point, it's basically you have this project, you want to migrate everyone. Now it's marketing, because you have to go hey, this will make things better, and this is how, and here's how you fix it, and you try to encourage people, but you still have to chase all the cats. And
so it's a lot of internal communication.
Yeah. And I'm hoping to get project management help with that stuff as well. And I don't know. I think it'll be, I like this kind of problem because it's I really like code. And the thing about a big migration is, you get to look at a lot of code because there are a lot of problems that you might need to fix. And there's all these little things that might have different behavior and affect certain pieces of code differently. So you have to kind of jump in and stare at stuff and then figure out what's going on there and see if you can fix it.
So a migration of that size, is that a multi-month process, multi-week process?
Yes. I expect parts of this to drag on into Q3 probably this year, and maybe longer, because
So several months.
Yeah, several months. So the code aspects of it are probably mostly going to be done this quarter, next quarter, but the getting everyone to migrate stuff might take longer because, some teams, like I said, they have to schedule the work and figuring out how that's going to go. And then, if anyone runs into problems, dealing with those problems, those kinds of things take time.
So when you're working on a migration like this, you're communicating with large numbers of people who have to, use your stuff, in one way or another. How many people on the engineering side are involved in actually doing the migration?
That's a good question.
Just approximate.
Oh, well,
2 or 3 or 20?
It's probably, well, so my team as a whole will be involved in this process for sure. But it's like we're not going to use everyone on the team's time the whole times, and that's like on the order of 10 people. So it's not a lot of people.
It's not a lot, but 10 engineers is actually, that's a lot of brain power.
Yeah, well, so the things that have been happening now, it's been like maintaining our JDK 11 stuff, because we have our internal patches and things, and so like doing our internal JDK release, which is based on the Open JDK, and then that stuff's been ongoing. So we've most of that has been worked out, but now it's the getting it so that we can do an incremental rollout. And I came from the build team before, so I have a lot of experience with how our build tools work. So the thing I've been focusing on is trying to figure out how to make it so that those tools can allow us to do this migration in an incremental way. Because the thing that would make this the most difficult possible would be if we have to do all of it in one big switch. So
that wouldn't be very wise anyway.
No. And so that's the, the thing I've been focusing on is trying to figure out how to make it more incremental. Because it's like, if we have to change everyone all at once, it's going to take a lot longer and we're going to have to be a lot more certain. But if we can do it incrementally, then we can have less certainty and we make each individual thing less risky.
I used to work in Solaris engineering at Sun Microsystems, and then one of the things I learned from the engineers is you do one thing at a time. Yeah. You don't do, you don't do 3 or 4 things at a time.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with large migrations is actually there's a little bit of a trade-off there, because it's like collecting things together means that you can get all of those things done and then move on to the next thing. But there's risk in doing that. So it's kind of like, how much risk do you want to take on now versus later, and how much time is it going to take you to split things up? And so one of the things that I decided to do with this is to split up the runtime and testing versus building. So JDK 11 is both a new runtime environment and a new compilation environment. And my plan is to migrate the runtime and testing environment first, and then migrate the build environment after, because each of those are going to have different problems with them. So figuring that out is, figuring out those 2 separate sets of problems, I would rather figure them out one at a time rather than at the same time.
Just from talking to you here, it seems like you really like to figure out, puzzles. You really like to, what tease, problems apart. Is that something that comes natural to you, or did you have to learn that?
That's something that comes natural to me. I mean, that's why I got into computer science in the first place, is because I was like, oh, well, I can basically solve these puzzles that affect people's lives, for the rest of my life. And that seems really cool.
Interesting. So what do you think of this conference so far?
I really like this conference. I think this is the first unconference I've been to. It's either the first one I've been to or the last one I was at was more than 10 years ago and I don't remember it. So,
Do you get to traditional conferences frequently? As
at my high watermark, I was going to 6 conferences a year. So I used to think that was a lot. And then I met some of the other folks who go to a conference or 2 a month, and I'm just I couldn't keep up with that schedule.
Well, one of your colleagues, Chris Algieri, is one of these guys that really never leaves the airplane.
Yeah, I know. I'm just I think it's so cool, but that's a bit much for me.
Okay, so we're here in Hawaii. We're going to finish up today. You're going to hang out for a few days here, or are you going to go, or do you go back right away?
I actually go back right away. So in addition to being a software engineer, I'm also a parent, and my kid's 9 months old. And so I need to get back to them. So, and hopefully if I come back to this, I will bring my wife and my kid with me, and that will be a lot of fun.
And they can hang out for a few days.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Well, hopefully Chris will do this next year as well. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a good place to come, obviously, in February. You take a break before the insanity of the year really gets rolling.
Yeah, and it's nice to take a break from the cold.
Yeah, actually, where are you from?
I'm from Bozeman, Montana. So, when I left, I think it was in the teens. And I actually went to a different conference before this, so it's like I don't travel like Chris does, but this was kind of a taste of that because I know that he does like conference in different places, and it was a little bit of that.
All right, well, Nora, thank you very much. We're getting ready to start back inside here in a few minutes, so thanks a lot for coming by and for the conversation, and we'll see you guys soon for more interviews here in Honolulu at UnVoxxed, Hawaii. See you guys later. Bye bye.